The screen is dark. No music. Just the sound of faint breathing. Quiet, slow, almost uneasy. Then, a voice breaks the silence. Calm. Deep. Curious. What if the reason you remember your favorite cartoon, but forget almost everything you learned in school isn't your fault? A light flickers on. The frame fills with the image of an empty classroom, rows of desks, a chalkboard covered in numbers, and a clock that ticks too loudly. Tick, tock, tick, tock. A child sits alone at a desk. His hands are folded. His eyes wander to the window, where sunlight dances on the trees outside. The voice continues. For years, they told him this was learning. Sit still. Stay quiet. Copy the notes. Memorize the facts. But deep down he felt it. The boredom, the distance, the slow fading of curiosity. The child stares at the teacher who speaks in a flat tone. Words move across the chalkboard, but none of them stick. Each sentence feels heavier than the last. The narrator whispers. He isn't lazy. He isn't broken. His mind just doesn't speak this language, the language of rules, grades, and repetition. The sound of the ticking clock fades into something else. Music, soft at first, then bright. The gray classroom begins to blur, its edges melting like a dream. Suddenly, color explodes on the screen. The child is sitting in front of a television now, his eyes wide open, a smile spreading across his face. Cartoon characters jump, laugh, and dance. The world feels alive again. But when he turns on his favorite cartoon, something happens. His heart beats faster. His brain lights up. He listens. He laughs. He remembers. Not because he has to, but because he wants to. Quick cuts flash by. Cartoons teaching through stories. A goofy scientist explaining how atoms stick together. A brave hero learning teamwork and courage. A silly sponge reminding everyone to stay curious and kind. Without even trying, he learns from them. Colors, ideas, emotions, they all blend into memory. No homework, no test, just joy. The narrator's tone shifts, steady and reflective now. You spent years in classrooms full of facts, tests, and rules. Yet it's SpongeBob, not science class, that you still remember. It's funny, isn't it? The things that are meant to teach us often fail, and the things that aren't supposed to, they stay with us forever. The boys' laughter echoes as the cartoon fades away. The screen slowly returns to the gray classroom. Empty desks. Cold light. Dust falling through the air like time itself. Why? What secret do cartoons know about learning that schools completely missed? The camera glides over the chalkboard. Words half erased, meaningless now. The bell rings, sharp and hollow. The boy's seat is empty. His notebook is blank. Only a drawing remains, a little sketch of a cartoon character smiling back. The music lowers to a faint hum. The narrator's voice softens. Maybe school was never broken. Maybe it was just built for the wrong kind of mind, a mind that was born to imagine, to play, to feel. The lights fade. The heartbeat sound returns, slow and rhythmic. If learning is supposed to change how we see the world, why does the classroom feel like the one place that never changes? Silence. Then, a spark of light appears on the black screen, warm, bright, alive. A simple line of text fades in. Let's find out. Music swells, gentle, curious, almost magical. It feels like the beginning of something big. Something hidden is about to be revealed, not just about cartoons, but about how humans truly learn. Soft music plays, light, almost like a memory. The screen fades in to the sound of laughter. Children run barefoot through a field, chasing each other, their faces glowing in the sunlight. The narrator speaks. Before schools, before tests, before grades, humans learn through something else. Something older, something powerful. The camera follows one child as she picks up a stick and pretends it's a sword. Another draws in the dirt with her hands. A third tells a story using stones and leaves. They call to play. The word hangs in the air, gentle, innocent, familiar. The scene shifts. Cave paintings on stone walls. Hunters teaching children by showing, not telling. A group sits around a fire as one person acts out a story. No books, No classrooms. Just curiosity, imagination, and shared laughter. For thousands of years, this was school. There were no tests, only stories. No lessons, only discovery. A montage follows. A young child in ancient Egypt stacking small clay bricks beside her father. A boy in a tribe mimicking the way his elders throw spears. A girl learning songs that teach her how to count and remember seasons. Humans were born to learn through doing, through trying, through feeling. Every game, every song, every story was a tiny teacher. The camera zooms out to show the earth turning. Generations pass, cities rise, machines appear. Then, the narrator's tone grows heavier. But somewhere along the way, play was replaced by pressure. The screen flickers between two images. Children playing in a field. Children sitting at desks. Color fades from one to gray. Learning became serious, structured, silent. The narrator pauses. The joy of discovery turned into the fear of failure. The camera cuts to a classroom in the 1800s, rows of children repeating words after a teacher. They looked tired, afraid to make mistakes. The system worked for a world that needed factory workers, not thinkers. And so the classroom was built like a factory, with bells, lines, and identical lessons. A bell rings loudly. The children stand, move, sit, repeat. The rhythm feels mechanical, cold. But our minds were never machines. A brief silence follows. Then the scene shifts again. Bright colors fill the screen. A group of kids sits in front of a television, watching a cartoon where characters solve problems, laugh, and create. The narrator smiles through their words. Cartoons brought play back. They reminded us that learning isn't about memorizing. It's about feeling curious again. A child on the screen copies what a cartoon character just did, mixing colors, building shapes, asking why, again and again. When a child plays, they learn more in 5 minutes than in an hour of forced study. Because play connects emotion to memory, and emotion is the glue that makes knowledge stick. The camera shows neurons in the brain lighting up like tiny stars. Each spark connects to another, a living web of discovery. Cartoons use the same secret: movement, emotion, surprise. These are the languages the brain understands best. A short pause. The music softens, almost like a lullaby. The power of play was never lost. It was just forgotten, buried under grades and expectations. The child from part 1 reappears, sitting on the floor, crayons scattered around him. He draws the cartoon hero he saw earlier. His eyes are bright, full of focus. And yet, somewhere deep inside, every child still knows how to learn. The old way. Through joy. Through curiosity. Through play. The narrator's voice lowers, more reflective now. Maybe the reason cartoons teach us so well isn't because they're simple. It's because they remind our brains of something ancient, something real. The screen fades to black. Only the sound of gentle laughter remains. The world taught us to grow up. Cartoons remind us how to stay alive inside. Soft music swells again, leading into the next part. A line of text fades in. But how exactly do cartoons make our brains learn faster? Soft, curious music begins. Light piano mixed with quiet chimes. The screen shows a swirl of colors that slowly form into a glowing human brain. The narrator speaks. Your brain is not a computer. It doesn't store information by command. It remembers what it feels. As the narrator speaks, glowing sparks move through the brain, lighting up whenever something exciting happens. Every time you see, hear, or feel something, your brain releases small chemicals, tiny messengers that tell it what to keep and what to forget. Cut to 2 scenes. A student in class, writing notes while staring blankly. The same student laughing at a cartoon. In school, the brain is quiet, but during a cartoon, it lights up like fireworks. The scene fills with colors bursting in rhythm with laughter. Words appear around the brain: emotion, movement, story, surprise. The narrator continues. Scientists have found that emotion acts like glue for memory. When you feel happy, curious, or amazed, your brain holds on to that moment. Show quick animation. A character from a cartoon makes a funny face, the viewer laughs, neurons connect tighter. That's why you can still remember the jokes, the songs, the colors, even years later. Your brain decided this matters. The music shifts slightly, more thoughtful now. But in school, there's very little emotion. You sit still. You listen. You're told what's important. The brain doesn't see a reason to care. The screen shows a brain slowly dimming, its colors fading. Then a cartoon voice laughs. The brain lights up again. Cartoons trick the brain into learning. They use motion, sound, color, and feeling to keep your attention. And attention is the first step to memory. Cut to a visual. A roller coaster labeled attention. Each twist and turn represents a change in tone, color, or emotion. The best cartoons are like roller coasters for your mind. Every scene is different, fast, slow, funny, sad, and your brain loves the ride. Now, the narrator's tone shifts to a playful explanation. Even the shape of cartoon faces helps you learn. Big eyes, bright expressions, they make emotion easy to read. The brain reacts faster to exaggeration than to reality. Show a quick animation comparing. A real teacher's face explaining something in a monotone way. A cartoon character doing the same, full of emotion and movement. One makes you listen, the other makes you feel. And the brain always remembers what it feels. Music grows softer again, more reflective. A series of scenes appear, children watching different kinds of cartoons. One learns about space. Another learns kindness. Another learns cause and effect just by watching a character try and fail. You don't even realize you're learning, but you are. Your brain connects emotions to ideas, joy to curiosity, laughter to understanding. The narrator pauses for a beat, as if thinking. In science, this is called emotional encoding. It's the reason we remember our happiest moments and forget the boring ones. Visual, 2 memory boxes. One dull gray and empty. One glowing and full of colorful shapes. When learning feels alive, your brain stores it in color. When it feels dull, it fades into gray. Music swells slightly, hopeful now. So, when a cartoon makes you laugh and think at the same time, it's doing something powerful. It's teaching the way your brain was designed to learn, through emotion, story, and movement. Cut to the child from earlier. Eyes wide, watching a cartoon, completely focused. Neurons light up behind his head like fireworks. He isn't just watching. His brain is growing new paths, connecting memory, imagination, and joy. The camera slowly zooms out, showing millions of tiny sparks lighting up in different brains across the world. From Tokyo to Toronto, from a child in Brazil to a student in India, every laugh, every curious thought, every story builds the same spark. The voice softens again. Cartoons work because they speak the native language of the mind, emotion. The scene fades to black. Only the sound of soft laughter and music remains. Then the narrator asks, with a curious tone, if this is how the brain truly learns, why do schools still teach the old way? The music fades to a single piano note. On screen, a line of text appears. Maybe the system forgot how the brain works. Soft piano fades in, slow, thoughtful. The scene opens to the same gray classroom from part 1. The child sits at a desk again, pencil in hand, staring at the clock. He knows the pattern by heart now. The bell rings. He sits. He listens. He copies. He waits. Every day looks the same. The teacher's voice drones in the background, a blur of words and instructions. The child's pencil moves, but his eyes stay blank. This is the system. A room full of young minds, told to think the same, write the same, answer the same. But no two brains are ever the same. The camera zooms out, showing hundreds of identical classrooms across the world. The same gray walls, the same rules, the same tired faces. School was built to control time, not to create curiosity. It was made for a world that needed workers, not dreamers. The music shifts, deeper, almost mechanical. Scenes flash. Factory bells, workers in lines, students standing, sitting, turning pages in rhythm. The school bell replaced the factory whistle. The desk replaced the workbench. and curiosity was replaced by order. The narrator's tone softens, almost sad. But the brain doesn't work like a factory. You can't make imagination with rules. You can't measure curiosity with tests. Cut to a student holding a test paper with a big red F. His shoulders drop. His eyes lower. When learning becomes about passing, failing, ranking, the mind stops asking questions. It learns to fear mistakes instead of explore them. A montage follows, kids raising their hands, getting corrected, trying again, giving up. Each time, the color fades a little more from a scene. The problem isn't the teachers. Most of them want to inspire, but the system doesn't let them. Show a teacher erasing a colorful drawing from the board, replacing it with test instructions. They are told to finish the syllabus, not to light a spark. The music pauses, only silence now. Then a voice, lower, almost a whisper. So what happens when the classroom kills curiosity? The camera zooms inside the child's mind, once glowing, now dim. The neurons are still there, but they've slowed down, waiting for something more. Without curiosity, the brain forgets faster. It learns without meaning. It remembers without purpose. Show black and white animations of information entering one ear and fading into dust. Then, a sudden burst of color. The same child turns his head toward a small cartoon on his phone. The dull gray fades as color returns to his face. But when he watches a cartoon, the world comes back to life. Movement, sound, emotion, surprise. Everything school left behind. Cut between classroom scenes and cartoon moments. Dull versus alive. Still versus moving. Silent versus expressive. In school, learning is something you must do. In cartoons, it's something you want to do. The music rises, warm and hopeful again. The brain doesn't need more pressure. It needs more play, more color, more story, more connection. Cut to teachers who try to bring life into class. Drawing, storytelling, using humor. Their students lean forward smiling. Every teacher who breaks the rule to make learning fun is a quiet hero. Because they know something the system forgot. That emotion is education. The camera returns to the child's face. He looks up from his cartoon, eyes bright again. The classroom fades behind him, replaced by a swirl of imagination. Stars, shapes, ideas spinning around. Maybe school was never about learning at all. Maybe it was just about control. The voice lowers, deep and reflective. And maybe it's time we stopped confusing discipline with discovery. The screen fades to black. A faint question appears. If the system doesn't work, what does? Soft strings fade in, curious, bright, full of wonder. The screen opens with colorful shapes floating across a dark background. They form into familiar faces, heroes, robots, talking animals. They look simple, don't they? Just funny drawings made for kids. But behind every cartoon hides a lesson. The camera zooms into one of the glowing shapes. It becomes a scene from a cartoon adventure. A young hero stands before a mountain, scared but determined. In stories like these, courage isn't taught. It's felt. The child watching doesn't hear a lecture about bravery. They live it through the hero. Cut to another scene. A group of friends working together to solve a problem. Teamwork, empathy, resilience. Cartoons teach these not by saying the words, but by showing the feeling. The narrator pauses, gentle and reflective. The lessons that stick the longest are the ones hidden inside emotion. Now the visuals shift. Show snippets from well-known examples. A little boy with an arrow on his head bending the elements with balance and peace. A yellow sponge finding joy in failure and friendship. A scientist and his grandson asking questions about time and existence. Avatar. The Last Airbender teaches philosophy and inner calm. SpongeBob teaches optimism and creativity. Even shows like Rick and Morty, wild and strange, make people question reality itself. The music grows livelier, a mix of wonder and humor. The trick? Cartoons hide heavy ideas inside simple stories. They turn science, morals, and even psychology into play. A visual montage follows. A cartoon explaining gravity, with a falling apple. Another showing friendship through colors and symbols. A third teaching cause and effect when a clumsy character learns from mistakes. A child laughs. An adult smiles. Both are learning without even knowing it. The narrator lowers their tone. That's the magic of stories. The brain loves meaning more than information. It doesn't crave data, it craves purpose. A glowing image of a brain appears again. Lines connect between emotion, story, and memory. When story and emotion join, the brain remembers forever. Cut to a teacher pointing at a chalkboard filled with formulas. The same formula now appears as an animated scene, colorful, alive, easy to follow. The difference isn't the topic, it's the delivery. The voice deepens slightly, confident but calm. Cartoons teach by inviting the viewer inside the idea. They let people feel knowledge instead of memorizing it. A child is shown drawing his favorite cartoon character on paper. He adds his own details, new clothes, new powers. When a child draws, copies, or imagines new stories, they're not escaping reality. They're practicing creativity, the skill that builds inventors, scientists, and artists. The music slows, then grows emotional again. Even moral lessons hide in cartoons. Honesty, kindness, curiosity. They're not forced, they simply exist, waiting to be noticed. A series of warm images fill the screen. Friends helping each other, a hero forgiving an enemy, a character trying again after failing. This is how cartoons teach complex ideas, through heart, humor, and humanity. The narrator pauses. The sound of a single heartbeat echoes softly. The greatest lessons are the ones we don't realize we're learning. The child from earlier appears again, smiling as he watches. Behind him, invisible threads of light weave from the screen into his imagination. Each thread forms a tiny symbol, a spark of understanding. Every laugh is a new connection. Every emotion is a new lesson. Every story plants a seed that might grow years later. The camera slowly zooms out, showing millions of screens across the world, each one glowing in color, each one lighting up another mind. Cartoons aren't childish. They're timeless teachers hiding in plain sight. The music swells, soft but uplifting. The narrator's final words for this section. When we learn through emotion, we don't just remember facts. We remember meaning. And that is something no classroom can grade. The screen fades to black. One line appears. So what if the future of education looked more like this? The sound of quiet static fills the air. The screen flickers between black and white images of old classrooms, chalkboards, rows of desks, stiff uniforms. The narrator begins, slow and reflective. For more than 100 years, the classroom barely changed. The world outside evolved, but inside time stood still. The bell rings again, the same sound from part 1. Children stand, sit, repeat. Their notebooks fill with facts, but their eyes stay empty. But now, something is shifting. The walls of the classroom are starting to crack. The music changes, soft piano blending with an electronic pulse. Color rushes across the screen. Phones light up. Laptops open. 1,000 screens come alive. A new kind of learning has escaped the classroom. It's everywhere, in our hands, in our homes, in our hearts. Quick cuts show creators making animated explainers, teachers recording lessons online, students learning with glowing faces in their bedrooms. Learning is no longer trapped in books and lectures. It's moving, speaking, laughing, it's alive. The narrator's tone grows warm, hopeful. This is the rise of edutainment, the fusion of education and entertainment. It's not about making learning easier. It's about making it meaningful again. Cartoon transitions flash across the screen. Atoms dancing, planets orbiting. Stories unfolding. Channels like Kurzgesagt, TED-Ed, and thousands of small creators are using animation, storytelling, and curiosity to teach what schools forgot. How to think, not what to think. Cut to a creator at a desk drawing ideas on a tablet. Behind them, the drawings come to life. This new classroom has no walls, no uniforms, no grades, only imagination. The music rises, filling the background with wonder. A video watched by millions can spark more thought than a year of lessons. A 5-minute story can open more minds than a textbook ever could. The screen splits into hundreds of small squares, each showing a person learning something new. A child discovering space through animation. A teenager understanding mental health through cartoons. An adult finally grasping a science concept that once felt impossible. For the first time, learning is becoming personal again. Fast, free, human. The narrator pauses, reflective again. The beauty of edutainment isn't that it replaces school. It restores what school lost: curiosity, creativity, and joy. Scenes play, animated brains lighting up, people smiling as they learn, a creator sketching new ideas late at night. These creators are the new teachers, not trained by systems, but powered by passion. The tone becomes more cinematic, inspiring. They know that learning should feel like discovery, not duty. That knowledge should move you. That the best lessons make you laugh, wonder, and feel. The screen shows a world map lighting up with glowing dots, each dot a person watching, learning, thinking. This isn't the future. It's happening right now. The narrator's voice lowers, almost proud. We are witnessing the rebirth of learning, not as work, but as wonder. A child from earlier reappears, older now, sitting at a desk with his laptop. On screen, animated stories play, full of color and sound. He takes notes, but he's smiling. He's curious again. He's still learning, but this time he's awake. The music swells with emotion, because real learning doesn't come from fear. It comes from fascination. The camera zooms out, showing people around the world learning through videos, games, art, and play. This is more than a trend. It's a quiet revolution. The classroom is finally catching up to the human brain. The screen fades to black, and one line appears. Cartoons were never just entertainment. They were a blueprint for how humans were meant to learn. The narrator pauses, letting the lines sink in. Then, softly, "And if this is the new beginning, what comes next might change everything." The final note echoes, calm, thoughtful, and full of promise. Transition to the final part. A soft wind sound fades in. The screen opens on an empty classroom. Sunlight slips through dusty windows. Desks sit untouched. A faint echo of children's laughter fades into silence. The narrator begins, quiet and gentle. This is where it all began. The place where learning turned into memorizing. Where imagination slowly faded into routine. The music starts to rise, emotional piano mixed with a soft hum. We built schools to teach knowledge. But somewhere along the way, we forgot how humans actually learn. The camera pans to a drawing on the blackboard, a smiling sun, left behind by a child. It flickers, then transforms into a glowing cartoon sun, bright, alive, moving. Because learning doesn't live in silence. It lives in stories, in colors, in feelings. Cut to children laughing while watching an animated lesson on a tablet. A mother peeks in, smiling, she's learning too. Every time you feel something while learning, your brain lights up like a galaxy. The visual shift, glowing neurons spark across the screen, connecting in beautiful patterns. Each connection pulses with light. That's the secret reason cartoons teach better than school. They don't just talk to your logic, they speak to your soul. The music grows stronger, slow, cinematic strings building with emotion. Cartoons remind us that learning isn't about passing tests. It's about understanding the world and yourself. The scene changes. A child watches a cartoon about space and dreams of becoming an astronaut. A teen watches an animation about kindness and chooses to help a friend. An adult discovers something new and feels hope again. That spark, that feeling, is the beginning of real education. The narrator pauses, voice softer now, full of meaning. And maybe that's what we've been missing all along. The camera zooms out, showing thousands of people across the world learning from screens, laughing, feeling inspired. Above them, threads of light connect, each one linking a new idea, a new dream. We thought learning had to be hard to be valuable. But the truth is it just has to matter. The music slows to a gentle hum. The screen fades to warm colors, orange, yellow, pink, like a sunrise. Maybe cartoons were never just for children. Maybe they were lessons disguised as laughter. Reminders of how powerful curiosity can be. A glowing line of text appears. The best teachers don't always stand in front of a class. Sometimes they live inside a story. The narrator's tone becomes intimate, final, almost like a whisper. And the next time someone says cartoons are just entertainment, smile, because you'll know the truth. The final montage begins. Famous cartoon moments flash by: courage, friendship, discovery, imagination. The child from part 1 reappears, older now, standing under a night sky filled with stars. He looks up, inspired. He didn't learn everything in school, but he learned how to learn. And that's what makes all the difference. The music swells, emotional, triumphant, cinematic. Stars fill the sky, forming one final image, a glowing brain made of constellations. Because the real classroom was never in the building, it was always inside the mind. The narrator pauses, silence, then one last line. And that's the secret reason cartoons teach you better than school. Learn, feel, imagine, repeat. Subscribe for more stories that make you think.